Hey everybody, welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Brittany Elliott. Welcome to July. You've made it 6 months through the year. I am just getting over a cold/allergy spell/ really good weekend. So bear with me with my voice here. But welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. As I mentioned, I'm Brittany Elliott. I help working moms change their approach to motherhood by creating simple, sustainable self-care routines that lead them to feeling vibrant, empowered, and fulfilled through their motherhood journey. And Reconnect is my signature group coaching program where I help women find themselves where they are, prioritize their peace, set their routines, and redefine their goals. And today we are going to talk about a better approach to self-care, and it's going to be focused on your overall wellness. But first, I want to talk about, since we are in July, I want to talk about Brown Mama's Weekend. So, July 26th and 27th, it's Brown Mama's Weekend in Pittsburgh. And I am very excited because this weekend is for us. Muffy and her team has put together a really great event. So make sure you grab your tickets at brownmamasweekend.com. It's going to be down at the August Wilson Center on, the 27th and 28th, July 27th and 28th. It's a powerful weekend event dedicated to celebrating and empowering Black mothers just like you. Last year was my first Brown Mama Monologues experience. I took my mother with me. It was a very powerful experience. Just to be there with my mom to hear all these stories about motherhood and being a Black mother especially was very moving. And this year we're going to have a lot of wellness sessions because there's the Womb Wealth and Wellness Summit on day 2, which I'm really excited about. I know some of the panelists. I know one of the speakers for the Mama Monologue. So I'm really just happy to go there and be able to support all the great things that are going to happen that weekend. So make sure you tap in. Yeah. So, in jumping into your wellness approach, your overall wellness approach to self-care, I want you to be mindful of these experiences. Your experience with overwhelm, frustration, irritability, exhaustion, identity crisis, and resentment. All of those things really remind us how important self-care is and how important it is for us to show up for ourselves, because these feelings are often a result of a lack of self-care. So if you are feeling occasional overwhelm, frustration, irritability, exhaustion, identity crisis, and resentment, and it's occasional, then of course, some of that just goes with life and having the proper reaction to things not going your way. But if you are feeling an excessive amount of any of those things, it is most likely a lack of care on your part and a lack of prioritizing your needs. So I want you to keep in mind what's holding you back from showing up for yourself in self-care. So what stops you from committing to your self-care? If time weren't a concern, what self-care activities would you do consistently? And if money wasn't a concern, what self-care activities would you do consistently? And the reason why these are important to consider is because the top 3 barriers for working moms, especially when it comes to self-care routines, the top 3 are time, money, and support. Having a lack of time and a lack of money and a lack of support, those 3 resources, whether it's one of them, all of them, or a combination of 2, there are always going to be roadblocks or barriers to us having a solid self-care routine. So really my focus when I'm in workshops, and which this is an impromptu workshops, but in workshops and working in the group coaching setting, is to really determine how can we overcome those barriers specific to time, money, and support. And you will be more determined to overcome these barriers if you understand or have an idea for what you would actually do as far as activities if that barrier weren't there. So if you know that if you didn't have the barrier of time and money, that you would go and maybe get a facial every 4 to 6 weeks, and you can actually see yourself in the spa getting those things done and understand the benefits of that activity for you, for not just your physical wellness on your skin, but your emotional wellness and your spiritual wellness as well. If you can actually picture that, then overcoming that barrier becomes even that much more important to you. And then we set up really solid plans, and we can be intentional with our plans to get you to that point if that's something that you truly want for your life. So just keeping that in mind. So what is self-care? We're going to be talking all about self-care. Self-care is my jam, and self-care is going to come up in Brown Mama's Weekend. And so what is self-care? So self-care is the practice of protecting our well-being and happiness. So self-care is proactive. It's preventive maintenance for our well-being. Too often, we jump into a self-care activity or a self-care routine after we've had enough. We've had enough. We had the last straw. And now we're being reactive with our self-care because we're trying to correct our feelings. However, we really need to be proactive because it really is preventive maintenance for our well-being. Self-care is a lifestyle, and it should not be something that you are using only to overcome unsavory emotions. Self-care is personal, and that's why it looks different for everybody. That's why you have some women who love to go to the nail salon and get their nails done, and that's where they relax, that's where they reconnect. And then you have other women who would rather mop the ocean than to go and sit in the nail salon. It's because it's very personal, so it always is going to depend on you, your personality, your goals, your style. So when we are talking about specific self-care activities, which we're going to do in a few minutes, just remember to toss out the ones you don't have any interest in and hold on to the ones that you do. One thing that we'll talk about is spiritual wellness. And spiritual wellness, aside from your connection to something greater than yourself, it involves a lot of time in nature as well. And I personally am not someone who enjoys hiking or being in nature in that way. Actually, hiking and just being in an area where it's just woods and all I can see is the woods causes me a bit of anxiety. However, me going out in the backyard and spending time there or walking around at the park are the ideal elements to spend my time in when I am working to impact and or improve my spiritual wellness. So keep those things in mind as well. Self-care is important for everyone. And as I mentioned, it is a lifestyle, not a medicine or an emergency lifesaver, or at least it shouldn't be. You should have it consistently in your life. So self-care is essential for a few things. It really does improve and create a healthy self-relationship. A lot of times we get into this disconnection from ourselves, and we're really overwhelming our thoughts with negativity. So we have a lot of negative self-talk. We're not taking care of ourselves because we don't value ourselves at a high level. So your self-care routine is going to improve the relationship you have with yourself. It's going to increase your energy and confidence, and it will reduce your stress and anxiety when you're doing it regularly in your lifestyle. And I also want you to keep in mind with self-care that it is a lot about the decisions that we make more than just the activities that we do. So it's about setting boundaries. and making the decisions to set boundaries. It's learning your limits and respecting them. It's doing things for your future self. So when we get back to school season, when you are picking out clothes for the kids at the beginning of the week instead of scrambling every morning, that is a self-care decision. It's not an elaborate or luxurious activity, but it is a way that we take care of ourselves and that we are prioritizing our peace. Balancing yes and no. Everything can't be yes and everything cannot be no. You have to remember that every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. And there has to be a balance between saying yes to our kids and our spouse and work and saying yes to ourselves. Because a lot of times we're saying yes to everyone and everything around us at the expense of ourselves. And so we're reframing our mind. You'll know that you're in a good self care routine, an impactful one that's improving your overall wellness when you don't feel any guilt or shame by telling other people no in order to tell yourself yes. So there are 5 wellness points that we are talking about when we are discussing an overall wellness approach to your self-care. We're talking about social wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, and intellectual wellness. All of those work together to help us feel the most whole. And this is very important. I'm going to define each of these and then I'm going to talk about why this is important for you to know prior to setting up your self-care routine, prior to adopting a self-care routine. It's really important to understand this. So, social wellness is the ability to create, maintain, and promote good relationships with others. And physical wellness is promoting proper care of our bodies in optimal health for optimal health and functioning. Spiritual wellness is being connected to something greater than yourself. Emotional wellness is the ability to manage and express feelings appropriately. And intellectual wellness is recognizing your creative abilities and finding ways to continuously expand your knowledge and your skills. And so each of these are very important. And sometimes what will happen is we will jump into a self care routine, for example, around our physical wellness. So we'll start dieting or changing our diet and start working out because we're focused on maybe the scale and trying to lose weight. And then what happens, we'll lose weight and we'll be in smaller clothes and whatnot, and we're still not feeling our best. We still feel like something's off. And that typically happens because we jump into working on our physical wellness before addressing our emotional wellness, which may have been the bigger issue. So, emotional wellness, that ability to experience, manage, and express feelings appropriately. If we are thinking, well, all I need to do to feel better is to look differently, and you put all of your energy into looking different on the physical, but you never address your emotional wellness, you're going to put yourself on this hamster wheel. You're going to put yourself on a hamster wheel of focusing on the wrong thing. The proper order of things in this situation would be to focus on your emotional wellness first through journaling, through having seeing a therapist, through coaching, to set yourself up better in your mindset and to reframe your mindset so that then you can work on your physical wellness and you have a much clearer reason and understanding for why it is important to you to focus on your physical wellness at that time. So doing things in the right order are very, very important. I don't want you to skip that. So make sure that you do take the overall wellness quiz. If you've been on Wellness Wednesdays before, we've talked about this before, back25.com/quiz is the overall wellness quiz that will tell you, it will help you determine where you are with each of these wellness points so that you know which wellness point you need to start with first. It may not be emotional or physical wellness for you. It may be social wellness, the way that you're creating, maintaining, and promoting good relationships with others. Because maybe you're feeling isolated. And so you need to focus on doing activities that involve other people. Now, those activities may also impact your social Those activities may also impact your physical wellness or your spiritual wellness, emotional or intellectual wellness, but your primary focus would be your social wellness. So we don't want to just get hyped up about taking care of ourselves, but then still fall into this loop of taking care of ourselves in the wrong way. Okay. I will tell you, I cannot wait to take these braids out tonight. I got these in April. Don't judge me, but I am ready. Okay. So again, that's backto5.com/quiz. There we go. Okay. So think about what you like to do. Earlier, I said, what would you do if time and money and support were not an issue, if you had all the resources that you need? So think about that, what you would actually do, because your self-care journey is all about you. So you have to really do the work to reconnect with yourself and ask yourself, what activities do I really enjoy doing? What activities do I miss doing from the past? What activities have you wanted to try? What have you scrolled through online or heard someone talk about that you maybe really been interested in doing, but you're thinking, when am I going to have the time to do that? When will I have the energy? When will I have the money to do that? It's really great when you have a list of activities that you would go to. I recommend this as well to a lot of mothers if you've ever found yourself without your kids, just unplanned, and then you sit there and you kind of tinker around the house for half the time that you're alone because you can't remember what you would like to do. You can't think of anything that you would like to do. You don't know what you would do with that time. So I always recommend writing a list of those things that you would do. Maybe it's a series that you would want to stream, or maybe there's a new restaurant that you wanted to go to. Maybe there's a new wine that you wanted to buy from the store and chill on your own. Maybe you have these candles that you've been wanting to light and have a bubble bath without being disturbed. Write those things down, because I guarantee you, when the opportunity presents itself and you're sitting there and it's just you because someone comes and gets the kids for you and you are not expecting it, you're going to say, okay, I have 2 hours to myself and I have no idea how to spend it. So this goes along with that. Part of your journaling prompt should be asking yourself and reflecting on the things that you like to do. What happens when we get disconnected from ourselves due to how much we're pouring into others and pouring into our kids is that the disconnection is truly, we don't know who we are anymore. We don't know what we like. We don't really know what we dislike. We know for sure that we're irritated and we're overwhelmed and we're frustrated. We know that, but we are not always clear on what will make us feel better without prompting that conversation consistently and with the intention to say, hey, I'm going to get to know myself again. You typically want to start with the things that you know that you enjoyed before. When you start there and try those things out again, then you can determine if those are still things that bring you joy. I used to dance. I did like a lot of, I was on dance teams and things in college, but then after that, I did partner dancing, like salsa and samba and rumba and things like that, East Coast swing, West Coast swing, that kind of thing. And I haven't done it in years, really. And I know now for sure that my body, the physicality of my body, I just don't have the same endurance, but I know I still love to dance. But I can guarantee you that some of the moves that I knew and things like that, it would be a whole process to really learn the limitations of my body because I had a C-section. And so there are a lot of things in my core that just are not as strong anymore, even though I have a very solid and consistent workout routine. I'm always working on my core and I'm always keeping my core engaged. It has its limitations because of all the trauma my body has undergone from a C-section. But that is something that I would really love to get back to. And I know that it's on my list of things to do. So have your list. Don't just rely on yourself or rely on the idea that if somebody would just come get my kids, I know exactly how I would spend my time. Write it down. Really know for sure. Don't think you know. Know you know. So here are some activities that go with each wellness point. So social wellness, having date night with your spouse or significant other, or having date nights with friends, just having meals and breaking bread with pleasant people, game nights, going to networking events, joining us at Brown Mama's Weekend. Those type of things impact your social wellness and they improve your social wellness. If you're someone who's more of an introvert and you get overwhelmed in large social events, but you know you still want that. You want a bigger network of people, but you get overwhelmed a bit in big social events. You can always set yourself up with a time limit. So say, I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to stay for an hour, or I'm going to take somebody with me who I know I'm close with, but they're a little more outgoing than me so that you don't have to do a lot of the talking and engaging. And then you can start to engage as you get comfortable. We have to be less passive with our approach to life, especially when we're talking about self-improvement and doing things differently. You have to get uncomfortable and you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, as the cliche goes, because there's not much change that's going to come by staying in your current comfort zone. Physical wellness activities include drinking water. So hydration is a big thing. A lot of us are running around here dehydrated consistently. We will not drink enough water. Having a healthy relationship with food is very important. Exercises like cardio and weight training exercises, increasing your steps that you take a day is very important. Just being mindful of your physical wellness and how much you are moving. Movement is life. So a lot of us have sedentary lifestyles. So we're doing a lot of sitting. Not a lot of moving around. So just being mindful of that and getting up every hour and taking a few steps, taking the stairs instead of taking elevators, parking farther away so that you're taking more steps. Just again, it goes back to decisions, making different decisions so that you have different outcomes. Spiritual wellness activities include spending time in nature, reading biblical texts and spiritual texts, prayer, and meditation. All of those are included. Emotional wellness activities include writing in a journal, aromatherapy, listening to music, speaking to a therapist, joining a support group and group coaching. All of that is really great for emotional wellness. And intellectual wellness activities include reading, doing arts and crafts, learning a new skill, pursuing a certification. So my friend, she is in a virtual book club, or actually it's not virtual. I think they do actually meet in person once a month and they go somewhere locally and eat and discuss the book. Those things are very, very important. I mean, me, if I would do that, I probably, to be honest, maybe wouldn't even read the book. It'd just be me going and to be able to engage in high level conversations that if you have young children, you may not have had the chance to do that as often. I actually went to an event around Mother's Day and a woman came to talk about her experience with this organization and getting support with a particular organization that was hosting that event. And afterwards, I went up and spoke to her. She had a small, like an infant with her and maybe another young child with her. And I really liked her speech, like I really like how she addressed us. And so I went up to compliment her and tell her that and, congratulate her and her new child and all that. And she told me how nervous she was because she had not spoken in so long, like, addressed people, especially a group of adults in so long. And I was just telling her, I think you did a great job and it'd be great for you to find opportunities where you can do more of that. And I know it's tough to just be speaking to kids all day. And so we had a small conversation, maybe for 5 minutes, but I felt that her just being able to have that conversation, have the opportunity to express that intellectually with someone who wasn't her kid, just not being around kids so much, really was impactful for her. And it was impactful to me to be able to support her in that way. So when we're doing approaching wellness, approaching our self-care, remember, choose one activity, commit to doing it every day for a week, and then repeat it after that in the upcoming weeks. This is important because we don't want to overload ourselves with our self-care routine. We don't want to take on more than would be productive. And I am very much biased to you starting with your emotional wellness first, because if our emotional wellness is not sound, a lot of times the other things are not going to help. So I would say my top rankings would be start with your emotional wellness and or spiritual wellness first. We need to get the mind and spirit together, and then the body will typically follow after that. And then it branches out to social wellness, because in all honesty, when you start working on yourself and you're improving yourself and you are prioritizing your peace, there will be so much clarity about the types of people that you will, moving forward, allow into your life. And so your social group will start to change. And you may learn that you don't want to spend your time with the same people anymore. And so your social wellness activities will start to look like you meeting different people who now serve the new you and whom you can now serve, and creating new friend groups. That's not always the case. However, it's often the case. So again, it's to trickle down. Emotional and spiritual wellness, starting there, I highly recommend. Moving down to the physical wellness, then getting into your social and intellectual wellness. By doing all of that work in your spiritual and emotional wellness, you're going to be improving your intellectual wellness as well, because you're going to be learning new things, not just about you, but the world and how things work. So that will improve even incrementally just by you focusing on those other wellness points. So I wanted to mention that. So I want you to think about how daily self-care can truly impact you, how it can improve your well-being, how it can really improve your peace, how it can create calmness in the storm. There are so many things that are truly outside of our control in this life that we live. So many things out of our control that we really need to hold on to the things that we can't control. And that's how we treat ourselves and the routines that we set up. So what's my final note? Reconnect group coaching, as I mentioned. So enrollment is now open for the August cohort of Reconnect. Reconnect started back in 2021 officially, and we do group coaching sessions 4 times a year. So this is the third one that we're having in 2024. So your last opportunities this year to grab onto it. We do it in August because going into this next school year, I want you to be prepared. Sometimes during these summer months, we feel like the sun's out, we got this, things aren't as hectic as we thought they were. They're not as hectic right now, but all of us go through this lull into the fall and into the winter months especially, and I want you to be absolutely prepared for any ways to combat seasonal depression and just the busyness of the school year, because it's a busy time. So backteam5.com/reconnect. You can learn more about the program and enroll if you are interested. And if you pay in full and you use the code wellness, you'll get 20% off. want to put it in the comments. So I'm throwing that in there. I hope there were some things you were able to take away from this week's Wellness Wednesday. I'm going to sign off because my voice is not being kind. That was a lot of talking that I did. As I'm still trying to get over the allergies and such. And I have to pick up my baby girl from camp. So I hope y'all are having a wonderful week. I hope that it is a short week for y'all with the holiday smacked almost dead in the middle. And I hope you're enjoying summer. And I hope that I see you on Brown Mama's weekend. Thank y'all for showing up. I'll talk to you very, very soon. See ya.